This is Sherry, and I wanted us to talk this morning about how you have conversations with people who are so completely opposite in their opinions and thoughts than you are. You know, when you actually, what you want to do is you want to slug them, but you know that's probably not the best way to handle things. But we all have people in our lives that, you know, families, friends, and those differences are really annoying. So I'm not talking about trying to persuade them to change their opinion, but you know, how do you do this respectfully? So Sherry's background is working with people in and corporations in communication and how to have the kind of conversations that will move towards goals and everybody getting along and are creative in allowing people to have their own ideas. So, Sherry,
Yes.
how the hell do you talk to these people that you don't want to talk to? And not be angry and not try to, you know, change them.
Right. Well, I would say the first thing is if you don't want to talk to them, don't bother talking to them.
Okay.
But if you do want to talk and you want to build bridges and you want to understand or form relationships with people who don't think and behave the same as you, if you're in a place of anger and judgment, the first thing to do is probably pause,
Right.
take several deep breaths, which will calm your nervous system, and then get curious with yourself. Like, what do I really want out of this conversation? What do I want to do? What's my purpose in doing this? What assumptions am I making?
Oh, that's a good one.
What don't I know about this person? I wonder how much we have in common beyond those things that are polarizing us. And those questions can begin to open up your mind and your heart to where when you then have that conversation, you can be much more in a place of curiosity. And if, as you said, you're not trying to change their point of view, if you're trying to understand, get to know who they are and avoid the topic that is polarizing you, and instead ask them about themselves. You know, who are they? What do they struggle with? What are their joys? What gets them up in the morning? What are their hopes? What are their families like? What's their job like? And then when you find those commonalities, because there will be lots of them, there's a whole lot more common that we have in common with people than that we don't. If you land on topics that you have an interest in that you're not going to be polarized on, to be curious about, you know, I'm interested in that same thing. I want our community to flourish as well. What are your ideas for making that happen? What do you think it will take?
So you're saying that instead of rushing into the conversation with like, you know, what is the matter with you? If you have, even if it's a family person, if you have better understanding maybe of where they are in their lives today, that you can handle it better. And what if you do want to have a conversation about something that is, you know, very emotional and very can make you, both of you, angry? How do you handle that?
Again, I would start with yourself, is asking yourself, so what's my purpose in having this conversation?
Okay.
If I just want to beat on the person and tell them they're wrong,
All right.
you might not want to have the conversation because
Right.
they're going to beat back. You're both going to be in defensive modes, and it will not support the relationship at all. If you're curious, and if you're genuinely curious, like this morning, one of my colleagues said she wanted to understand why did people vote the way they voted? And she tried several different news stations, and all of them were, doing the pundit thing around the outcome of the election. So she put on Fox, which she ordinarily doesn't watch. And they were interviewing people who had voted the way they voted. And she said, I started to hear their stories of how for them, the economy is not working. And they're struggling to put food on the table. And they were coming from a place of struggle in their own lives and did not feel like the current administration had supported them. And so they were hopeful. And if you're okay with just hearing to understand and to say, oh, okay, well, I hope this turns out the way you're hoping. Because for most Americans, they are hoping for something better for themselves, their families, and their communities. But if the whole being inside of you is like, well, let me tell you why that was the wrong decision.
Right.
Now you're back at the polarity.
Yeah.
So it's, do I want to understand? And if it's good for me to just understand. And then you can also ask the question after you hear them out and to say, I understand, I totally get it. I hear you. Are you interested in hearing my point of view or where I was coming from? Because I'm hoping for the same thing you are.
Right.
Better for my community, better
Right.
but are you interested in hearing where I'm coming from? And if they say yes, then without like the passionate vehemence,
Right.
to just say, here's why I did not, or here's why I voted differently.
And you might find out that maybe they're not quite as stupid as you think that they are.
Yes. And you also might find out that in that place of listening to them and asking if they would like to hear you, and if you say it from a place of, well, here's what I believe, not here's what you should believe, but here's what I believe, here's my experience, and maybe even in here are the things I'm afraid about right now under the current outcomes. That they're now listening from a different place. So they might begin to if the idea is not to change somebody's opinion, but to broaden everybody's awareness.
Okay.
If you can broaden their worldview to take in more than just what they've been told or what they think, and same for you,
Right.
the other
Right.
person, to take in more of the, no, they're not just stupid. They're voting from their own experience, or they're coming from their own experience. That everybody's world broadens, and that then gives everybody hope for connection again.
I like that. I'll try that.
Me too.
Sherry has co-written a book. That's going to be backwards, I
No.
think. No?
No.
Okay. Conversations Worth Having, which I love that title. And this is used a lot in the corporate world, correct, with what you do. But is it good just for the regular layperson?
We have most people who attend our training programs are in very diverse organizations, from nonprofits to schools, regular organizations, contractors, ministry. It's two very simple practices: asking generative questions and using a positive frame, which is talking about what you want instead of what you don't want.
Right. And this, you can get this on Amazon?
You can.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
I'm going to try it.
I'll try it too.
Okay. Thanks.